Hello, welcome to a very special program of Cotton. Today we are going to interview Professor Aditya Mukherjee, who is a very eminent historian. Everybody knows about him. He was a professor in JNU in the Center of Historical Studies, and he's here in town today because he's going to deliver a lecture tomorrow in the Department of History, Guwahati University, on the occasion of the birth century of Professor Amalindu Guha, who hails from Assam, who is a very, very eminent economic historian. So, Professor Mukherjee, I'm very happy that you could spare time to speak with us. So, I welcome you to my program. And first, actually I was reading your this presidential address of Indian History Congress, and I think 5 years ago when you came here, then also you spoke about Nehru's legacy, and this presidential address was all about Nehru's thoughts, ideas, legacy. But my question is that Nehru, he was not only a politician, statesman, he was also a very learned man. He was a very learned scholar. And his books. Hello, welcome to a very special program of Cotton. Today we are going to interview Professor Aditya Mukherjee, who is a very eminent historian. Everybody knows about him. He was a professor in JNU in the Center of Historical Studies, and he's here in town today because he's going to deliver a lecture tomorrow in the Department of History, Guwahati University, on the occasion of the birth century of Professor Amalindu Guha, who hails from Assam, who is a very, very eminent economic historian. So, Professor Mukherjee, I'm very happy that you could spare time to speak with us. So, I welcome you to my program. And first, actually I was reading your this presidential address of Indian History Congress, and I think 5 years ago when you came here, then also you spoke about Nehru's legacy, and this presidential address was all about Nehru's thoughts, ideas, legacy. But my question is that Nehru, he was not only a politician, statesman, he was also a very learned man. He was a very learned scholar, and his books, autobiography, then Discovery of India, then Glimpses, all these books, even now, though these books were, I think, published 60 years before, and now they are in great demand, and generation of actually students, they grew up reading these books about our past, about world history, about Indian history from Indian past. But now, we are in a time where the present regime is all out to obliterate his legacy, and they are in a vilification campaign against him. How do you actually react to it?
Firstly, thank you very much for inviting me to discuss with you. I think it's a very pertinent question. It's a question that should bother every intelligent person in this country. That how come that such a man like Nehru, who the world glorified, should be vilified in this manner? It's quite understandable. You see, first let me say, why was Nehru picked by Gandhiji as his successor? I want to just mention this to you because, as you know, the current regime often pits one nationalist leader against the other. Nehru versus Subhash, Subhash versus Gandhi, Gandhi versus Patel, etc., etc. They go on doing that. Bhagat Singh versus Gandhi. And so when Gandhiji got to hear of this, he said that people are trying to create a divide between me and Nehru. And as you know, Nehru was one of Gandhi's biggest critics. The autobiography that you mentioned, the whole book is a critique of Gandhi. And that is written in the 30s. And in 1942, Gandhiji says that people say that Nehru and I are estranged. But he says that you cannot divide water by beating it with a stick every time. So they are trying to do that. They are trying to divide us by beating a stick into the water. The water will not divide. And he says that not Patel, not Rajaji, he names. But Nehru will be my successor. When I am gone, he will speak in my voice. Now, why did Gandhiji have this confidence in him? Because Nehru represented in all aspects all the essential elements of the idea of India, what Rabindranath Tagore called the idea of India, which was the vision of the national movement. All those elements. And what was this vision of the national movement? Anti-imperialism, democracy, secularism, a pro-poor orientation, and a scientific temper. These are the 5 basic elements of the idea of India. And Nehru represented them best. And more important, Gandhiji knew that in the independent India, to implement these ideas of anti-imperialism in this bipolar world was not going to be easy. Of bringing democracy in a 200-year-old colonized country is not going to be easy, and poverty was obviously such a big issue. He thought Nehru was the person who could do it. All right. Why do they hate Nehru so much? What happened at the point of independence? The biggest challenge to the idea of India came at independence, when we had this Holocaust-like situation. 5 lakh people killed. Started with the Calcutta killings, followed by the Noakhali killings, followed by Bihar killings, then Punjab killings, then Delhi killings, then partition. 5 lakh killed. About 6 million made into homeless people. They left their homes. Their feelings of anger against the other community is at its highest. And that was the time they also chose to murder Gandhiji. As you know, a Hindu communalist who was linked with the RSS, who was linked, and that is why the RSS was banned, murdered Mahatma Gandhi. And Nehru, at that point only said that it is not a madman who has gone and killed Gandhiji. It's an organized plan, he says, to do a coup. I'm using his language. To do a coup. That is, change the nature of the state. Because the state that was to come, the newborn state, naturally would carry the vision of the movement, right? Which means it would be a secular democratic state. But the RSS and the Hindu communists tried to use the situation of the partition riots, etc., to say that now is the time to create a Hindu Rashtra, a mirror image of Muslim Pakistan. This was what their plan was. But that we must learn something from this, that in that situation, what did the tallest of our leaders do? From Gandhiji to Nehru. Where was Gandhiji? Gandhiji was in Noakhali.
He was not in Delhi, he was in Noakhali.
This when the biggest events of the 20th century is happening. The empire is falling. With India getting independence, the imperial system collapses the world over. So such a big event, and the leader of the movement is not there. So when all the leaders said, Nehru, etc., Gandhiji, when will you return? How long will you be in Noakhali, one remote district of Bangladesh now? He said, as long as it takes. And you know how long he was there? 4 months. He said, if the soul of India is killed, what use is freedom?
And there is no symbology. He was really with the people.
You are right. And he said, soul of India is Hindu-Muslim unity to him. So Gandhiji is doing this. And then at the same time, in response to Noakhali, in Bihar, there are killings of Muslims on a large scale and in the rural areas. What does Nehru do? He takes his entire cabinet, Sardar Patel, C. Raja Gopalachari, Acharya Kripalani, just name it, a whole cabinet, Jayaprakash Narayan, he takes them all to Bihar and he says, we will park here and see that the communal situation comes under control, and they brought it under control. I'm giving you these examples to say that these people were not going to allow communalism to grow. Most important, and I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow also. The first election, 1951 election, Nehru turned into a referendum. He said the people of India have to decide, do we want to become the mirror image of Muslim Pakistan? Do we want to become a Hindu Rashtra? Or do we want to be a secular country? 94% of the Indian people voted for a secular country. All these Hindu Mahasabha, Hindu Parishad, etc. put together got only 6% of the votes, 10 seats. So it was a huge victory. Communalism had been pushed aside. That is why they hate him. Firstly, Nehru took away the chance they thought that they had of capturing power in this form, of making a Hindu Rashtra. And secondly, because he was a relentless secularist. I mean, he would not give an inch. He would jump into a riot situation. There are so many stories about it. There is a riot going on, Nehru would jump into the middle. And he said, any Muslim or Hindu, he strikes a sword at the other person, will have to first kill me. So that is the kind of person that these leaders were. And obviously, they cannot tolerate him. Also, as far as the current regime is concerned, almost every idea of Nehru is the opposite of what they are doing. On poverty issue, on capitalism, on the socialist vision, on secularism, on anti-imperialism, on not being a junior partner to any country. We are reversing everything. On the use of the public sector, on education and health being a public responsibility. All of this is being taken away.
These people are actually against everything Nehru stood for.
Absolutely.
Nehru stood for. And actually, what was happening, when I was going through your presidential address, this History Congress, and I was seeing that actually, as if the time has not changed, as if whatever issues were alive then, the issues, the way Nehru was speaking, and some of the people now also speaking on the same line. And maybe that is why these people are very much against Nehru, and that is why they want to say, they obliterate his legacy and things.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Gandhi and Nehru. They want to.
Gandhi they do not want to say anything, publicly against Gandhi, but they are doing everything against Gandhi's ideals also.
You see, Gandhi, they cannot, because, globally it is very difficult to do so. Even Nehru is difficult, but Gandhi even more. But what they have done is, they're just using the image of Gandhi. The spectacle of Gandhi is seen on all the dustbins. You would think that Gandhiji was a sanitary inspector, whereas the values of Gandhiji, are being completely set aside. Not a single value of Gandhiji is being kept up. His idea of Daridra Narayan, the poor being in the center of your vision, is gone. You've seen, I don't think the poor have ever been abandoned in a manner that we are witnessing in India today.
And Gandhi is actually, they said about, his religious belief. Some people bring in his religious belief of politics. But when I read Gandhi, and I read Gandhi very minutely, I see that, okay, for him, the essence of religion was justice.
That's right.
Yeah, that is what he said, that if politics if justice is not there in politics, then what is politics for?
Mr. Malakar, you're so right. And so much misuse has been made of Gandhiji by saying that he brought religion into politics. He said there is no politics without dharma, etc., etc. And unfortunately, even the left critiqued him for this reason.
Even left also say that he is mixing religion with politics.
But they have not read Gandhiji.
They have not read
Gandhiji has, I will show you that at least, 50 times he says, when I say dharma, I meant ethics. I mean justice, what you're saying.
Yes.
I do not mean, he says, I do not mean denominational religion. I do not mean Hindu, Muslim, Christianity.
He was not meaning any idol, any faith.
That's right. He never went to a temple, you know that.
Yeah, temple and things. Now, and I must here, okay, we are a little away from our main topic, but then I must mention here that actually left also misunderstood him.
Of course. Unfortunate. To their own loss, rather than building on the shoulders of Gandhi. Gandhiji gave them an opening. By the way, not the entire left. It is the only Stalinist left. Lenin called Gandhiji a revolutionary. You know why? And he gave 3 reasons. And Lenin, to my opinion, should be one of the most important thinkers of the left. He says, Gandhiji is revolutionary, A, because he brought a mute, scared people into political action. After the mutiny, it was not easy for the Indian people to again arise. He brought people into politics for the first time, number 1. Number 2, he said, having brought them into politics, he doesn't prevent other radical movements into flourishing, which is also true. Gandhi did not prevent the communists.
No,
in fact, Gandhiji met the communists in prison, the Meerut conspiracy case people. He met them and they had a discussion, and the communists told him that Gandhiji, you are very nice, you have good ideas, you were pro-poor, etc. But you are not scientific. Because they had this notion that you've read one book, and you know everything scientific. So they were lecturing to Gandhiji. So Gandhiji, also being a humble person, he said, look, I have read a little bit, some Jawahar has taught me. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not God, he says. Maybe I'm wrong. And that was his belief. That is why he was non-violent. He says, I'll come to that in a minute. He said that I'm not God. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are right. But if you are right, go to the people. They will walk away with you. They will not follow me. That was his strategy. He never attacked the left. I want to give you this example, even if it takes away time. In 1942, the left changed their position on the war. They called it first imperialist war, but when Soviet Union was attacked by Hitler, they called it a people's war, right? And they said, now we cannot fight the British. But that is the time when Gandhiji has decided to launch the Quit India movement, the biggest mass movement in Indian history. 10,000 people died in that movement. 9th August, the famous speech he gives in Bombay, do or die speech. In that occasion, 13 communists got up and opposed the Quit India resolution. What did Gandhiji do? And the people were furious because the people were on the rise. They wanted to fight the British, and here are 13 communists saying that no, now is the time to support the British because Soviet Union is attacked. Gandhiji got up and he said that I admire these comrades. They have the courage to stand against the current. The courage to do what they believe in. And I would like to be. That was my life's ambition, was to be like them. He protected them, So, it is, and this is why Lenin says that he was revolutionary. He did not prevent communism. Even after 1942, communists were not thrown out of the Communist Party.
And
they left.
And he was essentially a Democrat.
This is absolutely.
He was essentially, only a Democrat can say like that.
This brings me to the other point. You are right, that he was essentially a Democrat. And democracy means giving the other side salience, right? This dialogical tradition is democracy.
Respectable, actually.
That's right.
You have a respectable hearing. You have to give them a respectable
hearing.
And
that is why Gandhiji believed firmly in non-violence, not only as a strategy against the British. Of course, it was a brilliant strategy. But that was not why he argued non-violence. He said violence, you can be violent only if you are God, if you think you have the absolute truth. He said, I cannot have absolute truth. Absolute truth or transcendental truth is not something I can possess. I can only search for truth. If I don't have the whole truth, then how do I know that maybe you were right and I was wrong? So how can I kill you?
That is something very important. You say that, okay, only because God, the omniscient, omnipotent, all-knowing God only know, okay, this is wrong, this is sin. This is evil, so evil is to be finished.
That's right.
And the good is to be actually
do
things so that good prevails. So a human being with human limitation, how can we decide like that? So that is why we have to allow various ideas and things to flourish.
In fact, Mr. Malakar, you will be happy to know that now many people in the West, there is of course great respect for Gandhiji all over the world, but even academics are now arguing that the Enlightenment project of Europe was better carried out by Gandhiji than it was in France, England, Russia, etc. Because in the Enlightenment project, they had this notion of absolute truth. Each of their revolution, the French, the Chinese, the Russian, ended with mass killings.
And there is an element of fascism in that.
Because this is it, because you have a notion of that you have the truth. Gandhiji comes from Buddha's tradition, 1,000 truths. Everybody has their own truth. I will fight for mine. I will try to persuade you, but I will not kill you. I will not say that you cannot have the truth. So he came from that tradition, and therefore both Gandhi and Nehru also built post-independent India. He made the transition from a backward to a modern society, industrialized society with democracy. Only example in the world. You tell me one other country which industrialized. France, England, USA. USA does it with slavery. England does it with, much before democracy is anywhere in Dickensian kind of England. Then all of them had colonies. Soviet Union with forced collectivization. Millions of people dead. China with 60 million dead. So Nehru was able to make this transition with democracy and sovereignty, which is a huge achievement. Huge achievement. When people here now say कि 70 साल में कुछ नहीं हुआ, it is sign of illiteracy.
Absolutely.
Only when you do not know anything, when you do not even know that in 1950, the average life expectancy, how many years you are likely to live, was less than 30. People used to die in an average in their late 20s. Average, which means the poor would die, in the 10s and 15s.
No, I just want you to this. Here I do not want a long answer. The thing is that, okay, that was the legacy of Nehru. That was the legacy of Nehru. Not only legacy of Nehru, that was the legacy of Gandhi. That was the legacy of freedom struggle. So Britishers, they say that 1857 or 50, that which Sipai mutiny. So that was the time actually, you say that that was the time when they wanted to divide between the Hindu and Muslims. And actually, if I could see and remember it, we will get it, that in, I think, 1905, when this Bengal was
partition of
Bengal, I think that was also a very vital point of decommunalization of our society. This 1905. Now the question is, okay, that was the legacy of the freedom struggle, that was the legacy of Gandhi, that was the legacy of Nehru, and then we...
Just to say, not only Gandhi and Nehru, all the basic ideas of national movement, the 5 I mentioned, there was a consensus, from Dadabhai Naoroji to the extremists to people like Tilak, to Gandhi, to Subhash, to Patel, to Bhagat Singh. All of them agreed on this. Only the communalists did not.
Yeah, that is why I said that when I say freedom movement, that
right.
Everybody is included.
Yeah, because they say that you only praise Nehru Gandhi. I'm not saying that. It is the whole national movement.
Yes. And this book, Ramesh Chandra Dutt.
R.C. Dutt, yes.
R.C. Dutt, his
Economic History of India.
I remember Gandhi, when he first read that book, he said after reading that book, he was crying.
Yeah.
He was crying the kind of economic exploitation actually the Britishers actually did to Indians. When I was reading this Ramesh Dutt's actually a biography bought by a professor in Jain. She was in Jain. She died. Sujit Mukherjee's wife, the English professor.
Meenakshi Mukherjee.
Meenakshi Mukherjee. She wrote a biography. And then in that book, he said that Gandhi was crying after reading R.C. Dutt's actually. Now, my question was, even after when this democracy was working here in India for so many years, decades. Now, why this deviation took place? Why did this deviation took place? But I don't want a long answer here because we have many other things to discuss.
It cannot be a very short answer, but in bullet points, I'll give you the answer. It's a very important question. As I said, that in 1950, the communalists were pushed into the woodwork. They were hiding. Nobody bravely said that I'm a communalist. They were thought of the lunatic fringe. Your question is, how is it that they are now occupying center stage?
Yes.
4 main reasons. One, after the RSS was released from prison, 25,000 of them were arrested by Patel, their hero now. After they were released, when they lied and said that we will only be a cultural organization, we will not do politics. What they did was, first thing they did was they set up this Sishu Niketans, their schools, Sishu Bharati or whatever they call it. First one in 1950-51 by Golwalkar himself. Today, 92% of the districts in India have RSS schools. 92%. So they are doing deep ideological work. We, the seculars, did not do it. So number one reason why they have reached there. We didn't take it seriously. We thought that they were in the woodwork, but they've come out now. They've created generations of bigoted people, So that is number one. We thought, Nehru partially also, though not fully, that economic development will look after this. The temples of modern India will be the mills and the dams and the steel plants, and all this, obscurantist ideas will disappear. It doesn't go. Ideology has to be fought with ideology. You cannot fight it with economy. So that was the second mistake. Third mistake, probably the most important mistake, secular parties, in order to beat the other secular party, started collaborating with the communalists and gave them legitimacy for the first time.
This was, I think I can remember here, this emergency.
That's it. 77 was the first time.
Emergency.
That's right.
Yeah.
Till then, nobody were willing to, they were called untouchables because they were the murderers of the Mahatma.
What are said of this thing was emergency. I must call that. Yeah.
Because during the Janta regime, during the JP movement, JP was asked that why are you taking the help of the RSS? And he said, I'm quoting JP, if RSS is fascist, then I am a fascist. So gave certificates to RSS. And the JP movement was completely penetrated by RSS. There's a whole book on it, you can easily read it, by Professor Bipin Chandra, on the JP movement and the emergency. But that was the third reason. 77 it was done, 89 it was done. In 1989, VP Singh and the left joined hands to say that Congress is more dangerous than the BJP because BJP is openly communal, Congress is hidden communal. And they aligned with the BJP, not formally, but informally, and throughout the Congress. BJP increased from 2 seats to 80 seats. And rest is history. The fourth reason is we abandoned the nationalist space. To come back to your original point. The space of nationalism was abandoned to these people who Nehru had described as anti-national. People who were dividing the country, they are now going about saying nationalist.
If I can intervene here,
yeah,
because it is getting a little longer, but then I must intervene. So here, I think the left parties also have to bear some responsibility. Responsibility because the last point is very important.
They have to introspect.
Fighting an idea with an idea, negative idea with an idea. This question of nationalism, that's a very important thing. That is how could they actually capitalize on it, and then they can actually get people's support.
Correct.
And it's a wrong pseudo actually nationalism what they are saying.
We abandoned the nationalist space. We critiqued and even ridiculed our own nationalism. We called Gandhiji a bourgeois agent. We called Gandhiji a communalist. We said Nehru, we meaning the secular, that Nehru was in a desperate hurry for power and therefore he agreed to partition. Nehru was responsible for partition. Now this is what Modi is saying now, but this was said by the secular and the left earlier. So we abandoned, as I
No,
said.
one has to do a self
We have to,
also.
unless, you see, the Indian national movement was perhaps the greatest mass movement in world history. And the only people who did not understand it, perhaps, were many of our own people. The whole world recognized it. You know, the whole world recognizes
Now
it.
we are paying a price for it.
We are paying a price for it. We needed to build on their shoulders. We needed to learn from them. We are learning from it now. We are learning. The techniques people are using are Gandhian techniques. The CAA movement people carried the constitution, Gandhi's image and Ambedkar's image. Isn't it? People have realized.
People need to understand it, actually realize it. It's just, they shouldn't use it as a tactics. They should realize it.
Of course. Of course.
They shouldn't that, okay, we are in a corner, tight corner, that is what we are taking
Of course.
help of Gandhi. We have to understand Gandhi properly. Then only maybe this will work.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Okay, now, now these things have become so interesting, we can go on discussing, but then, okay, there is a limitation. Now, see, you said something very interesting. So when the first elections were held, then you said that 95% people, they actually voted for secularism.
Right.
They voted for secularism, they voted for democracy. Now, there was this aberration, this deviation. We do not know whether we will be able to come out of it in this election. We hope we should be able to come out of it, because we have seen some developments.
Yeah.
And maybe people have realized also. But most interesting thing is that at the time in, I think this election was held in 1951-52. And now, when recently this CSGS, they conducted a survey, All India survey. It was 95% you said at the time, and now 85% people in the country, they said that, okay, we want a multi-religious actually country. Everybody should have his rights to whatever faith, whatever religious beliefs he belongs to.
Correct.
Now, that you have very rightly, you have said that the Indian independence movement and Gandhi, Nehru and other stalwarts of our freedom struggles, and then how actually this secular train was derailed by these people, and then how we were the people who actually stand for democracy, for secularism, who were also unwittingly actually did something because of what actually this could happen. Now that 85% people, they want that, okay, we want a multi-religious, a multilingual, multi-religious country. We do not support one religion, Hindutva only thing. So, how effectively now we could fight against this provision and this force, and how could we actually revive the constitutional values? And I mean constitutional values means the values of the freedom struggle, because the constitution is nothing but the aspiration actually enshrined in the preamble of the Indian constitution.
Absolutely.
So now how can we actually uphold those values and really bring back those values to trend?
You see, just one or two lines on the very interesting phenomenon that on the one hand, the party in absolute power believes in Hindu Rashtra, and on the other hand, 85% of people say that we believe in multi-thing. The answer to that, how is it possible? Answer to that is, I must take us back to our national movement and our civilizational history. As Nehru writes in his Discovery of India, as Amartya Sen has been writing repeatedly, that the Indian civilizational history from the ancient past has been a dialogical one, has been an accepting one of living with difference. This division on the religious basis is something that is created in the 19th century in the colonial period. Indian people were not divided on religion. In the 1857 mutiny, the Brahmin soldiers who revolted, all the Hindus from all over the country, who did they go to and say, please, you take over? Bahadur Shah Zafar. They didn't say that you are a Muslim ruler. So this Hindu-Muslim business is a very much a colonial product.
If I could intervene here,
Right.
little bit. Now you shouldn't
Right.
lose the track. Now, when I was reading this, and when I feel this, I feel there's so much anger inside me against the Britishers.
Of
There's so much anger
Of course.
that we were one country. You
Yeah.
divided us.
Right.
You actually.
That is the
divided-
longest lasting legacy of colonialism.
Colonialism.
It
That
leaves
is
behind a
peace,
divided
and
people.
when we speak against these people, but actually I think our anger should also be against these people,
Of
against
course.
these colonialists, against these Britishers who divided us and who put this hatred.
And these Hindutva people were the agents of the British at that time. You must show the connection between colonialism and communalism. It is the same.
Same.
They're trying to be they're saying we are nationalist, but they collaborated with the British to defeat Indian nationalism.
I have nothing against the English people, but then the imperialism. I don't hate English people, but the idea of imperialism, the philosophy of colonialism. Actually, I feel so much anger.
You're right. It is not only English. Wherever colonialism has gone, it has left behind a divided people. Beginning from the first colony, Ireland, till today is divided on the basis of religion. Everywhere, look in the Middle East, wherever there is colonialism, they've left behind. I've been writing this, that is the longest lasting legacy. The economic deprivation, the political deprivation, we have been able to catch up.
Yeah. But then when you divide people.
But the division we have not been able to repair yet.
Okay. Now coming to your answer.
Yeah. So, our national movement drew from this civilizational history. And since it was a mass movement and a prolonged mass movement, remember, it was not a guerrilla movement. It was not a coup. It was not a professional revolutionaries. It was not the Red Army capturing power.
It is every household
That's right.
was involved in it.
And for a long time. So, which means the ideas of the movement went deep down into the minds of the people. The BJP realized that they have captured government power, but India is still not a Hindu state. That is why they are now using state policy to convert the state apparatuses, judiciary, bureaucracy, media, etc. by force, divide civil society through dog whistles given by even the Prime Minister, so that the government may be Hindu, believing in Hindu Rashtra, but the people must also believe. So they are trying to make the people do that by creating riots, by creating this kind of situation. And this is what all fascists do, So that is why the shift has come towards, from the Bajpayee days to the current days, the shift towards fascism is because of this. The realization that the people have yet not come to that.
Yes.
So the people must be divided at all levels. If they do not agree, do it by force. That is what is happening.
Interesting thing is, at the ground reality, at the ground level, grassroots level, we have seen that though people actually maybe wrongly believe them, now this divisive politics is not actually paying any dividends.
I'm very happy to hear that. If you are saying so,
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that, because they did manage to fool a lot of people. You can, for periods of time, drive even sensible people into madness. Do remember that Germany in the 1920s and 30s was the world's most advanced country in philosophy, in literature, in music. Think of a great musician, all German, Beethoven, Mozart, everybody. So they were right on top, Marx, everything German. And yet they were able to produce a society which believed that killing the millions of Jews was a good idea. So for a brief period, people can be pushed. So I think what has happened in India is, at least for a brief period, I'm happy to hear you are saying that people are beginning to change.
Don't you feel that? Because
of course, people did.
This time they have not been, this Hindutva thing, this Hindu-Muslim thing is not working.
I really hope so, because the media, of course, has been so badly bought up that only people like you dare to have interviews like this, But so we don't often get to know the truth. So if you are telling me that this is what is happening in the grassroots, I feel that
because
I feel great
I have
about
gone
it.
to people and I have seen all around. I have seen, particularly in Assam, I have seen that they have not been able to actually communalize these things.
Absolutely.
And particularly the Muslim community has actually they are not provoked with so much of actually provocation, so much of mudslinging. Actually, they responded very quietly and very patiently. That is what I have seen.
Islam in India, the world has commented on it, was very different from Islam in many various parts of the world. I mean, we have a long history of the Sufi tradition, and of the Hindus and the Muslims.
And then there is also a cultural influence, of our country.
Organically.
Yeah.
From the grassroots emerged a person like Kabir. Half the people you ask on the street that is Kabir Hindu or Muslim, believe you me, people will not know.
Yes.
They don't care.
Yeah.
But here is this Muslim Julaha that people don't even bother. That is our country, that is our society, that is what we were so proud of. Yeah. That in India it did not matter.
Yeah. Now I have last question. Is the last question. Now you are a professor, so maybe I am not a professor. I am doing. I am at the moment. I am from media, but the people actually ask. Now, what can we do? That means the people, educated people, the intelligentsia, the writers, the authors, the journalists, well-meaning journalists. What should be our responsibility in the present crisis? That is my last question.
Very, very important, good question. In fact, a lot of people, young people particularly, ask us this question when we give a talk, which they say is very inspiring, but then say, what can we do? The police is not with us. The media is not with us. We will not get jobs. Everything is against us. How can we intervene? My answer to them was that the British control over the press, the British control over the police, British control over the education system was even stronger than the current regimes. And yet, our people could stand up. One by one, they stood up. Who stood up first? The intellectuals, the intelligentsia stood up. They created a spine. They spoke up, one person at a time, one schoolmaster at a time. We've done 3,000 hours of interviews with freedom fighters, from village level workers. So we know what we are talking about. And that changed the country. So what I would say is that don't say that either I will do revolution or nothing. Let us do in our own sphere what we can. You are doing this. If 10 people here and are inspired, you've done your bit. You have not succumbed. Let's overcome fear. Basically, this was what Gandhiji did. So, if you read Nehru on Gandhi, Nehru, after being a critic of Gandhi, in the end says that there was fear all over the country, fear of the landlord, fear of the police, fear of the British, fear of that. And then Gandhiji came and the pall of fear lifted. So we have to get rid of our fear.
You have so nicely said this thing. You have to have your own spine.
That's right.
And then you must be fearless. You must speak your mind. So
Absolutely.
That's all, isn't it?
That's right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Such a beautiful, actually.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it so much interviewing you.
Thank you.